Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It is October 8th. We are already in week 7 of the high school football season here. We will be breaking down our rankings from the week 6 of the football season. League plays kind of is getting up and rolling here, Keenan, these last couple weeks. Obviously, this coming Friday is the start of the Adobe Valley or of the Adobe League. Um, Probably the most anticipated I'd say week of football that we've had around here in a long time. So getting things started off with a bang with San Marin and Marin Catholic are playing on Thursday night over in Novato, and then Newman and Windsor, in that heavyweight Sonoma County clash going to be on Friday night at Windsor. So we'll get into all that stuff here shortly, but we're going to take a quick look at our top 7 teams, a few teams on the bubble, a few additions to the bubble this week too, Keenan. Sonoma Valley staying put. They're at 6-0 on the bubble. Big win over San Rafael. I think they're in the driver's seat there for the RAC Mountain Division. Maria Carrillo joining the flock there at 4-1. Big winners over Washington Fremont this past week, and then Montgomery also jumping in there at 3-2. To make a 4 team that's on the bubble. We also have one new addition as well, who's dropping down from our top 7. Vintage is going to be dropping from number 6 all the way out of the bubble, and we'll get into a couple reasons here why. But Vintage. Quick note on them too, but they won I think it was their 8th straight big game. Took care of Napa 42-6. But we're just, we're dropping them out of our top 7 right now just because of what Yukay and St. Vincent did this past week. Both of them picked up some pretty big wins over quality opponents. And really, it's more of a testament to kind of what St. Vincent and Yukay did rather than saying anything negative about Vintage. Just but the reality is that their strength of schedule hasn't been all that great. And I think the wins that that St. Vincent and Yukay picked up this week are probably better, I'd say, than any of the wins so far that Vintage have. So that is our bubble here heading into week 7. Vintage, Sonoma Valley, Maria Carrillo, and Montgomery.
Yeah, definitely pretty stacked bubble now. A little adding a couple more teams. It's no longer the exclusive club that we thought that the bubble was coming into the first couple weeks of the season. But teams are earning it, man. Teams are really earning their spots. Teams are playing well. Teams are garnering up wins. Especially as we get into the thick of the meat and bones of the league season for some leagues and the beginning of others. So. Going to be interesting. These rankings are certainly going to be interesting as we continue to go through league play. Gus, this could very well be a week by week basis for a lot of these teams.
I think there will be, once we kind of get more into the heart of Adobe play, there's going to be a lot. I think there's probably going to be a lot of kind of shifting around, based on how some of those games go, like Windsor San Marin, Windsor Marin Catholic, Windsor Rancho, just so many games that I think can kind of really kind of swing the needle there for some teams. So we'll see how it goes. Very excited for this next week of football. But moving right along here into our top 7. Number 7, Yukay joining the ranks again here of our ranked. Obviously not ranked the last couple of weeks. But last 2 weeks, they've really been kind of showing showing why they're a team to be taken seriously. Pushed San Marin to the wire. In a close loss a couple weeks ago, and then Carlmont, things looked like they were going pretty poorly there for about for most of the first half. They were down 24-0. At Carlmont, and they rallied all the way back for a 52-34 win. Just really impressive kind of turnaround there in the second half for Yukay. But Carlmont, I think they're like a top 25, top 30 team there in the Central Coast section. I think they came into the game at 3-1 or something like that. So, a team that can put up some points and had some quality wins as well. So really impressive there for Yukay to kind of go on the road, get punched in the mouth, take that punch, and then come back and drop a 50 burger on them. So definitely impressive. Last couple of weeks, again, like I said, showed that, Yukay is definitely a team to be taken seriously. Getting better every week. And I think that, again, we said this, I think, early on, but RAC Bay is going to come down to that Yukay St. Vincent game on October 25th. So looking more and more likely like that. So keep that one circled on your calendar, folks.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you said it perfectly. After that Rancho loss, the opening week Rancho loss, pretty ugly loss by Yukay standards, but they've just picked up the pace, gotten better and better and better. That's what a Paul Cronin led team is all about. And once they get rolling, they're very hard to stop. So we welcome Yukay into the round, and they've been kind of a mainstay in the bubble along with Sonoma Valley for the last couple weeks. But Gus in the bubble this week, or not in the bubble, in the 7th spot this week.
Yukay is back. Also, one quick note too, heading into their game this week, they're playing Montgomery, their first game of league play. I think it's the RAC Bay division. Paul Cronin, you just mentioned him. He now has 232 career wins, which ties the late great Jason Frenchie, who coached in Montgomery for a long time. Frenchie has the all-time Sonoma County record. Technically, Cronin wouldn't take over that record because he's at Ukiah now. But still, just Yukay can or Cronin could pass Frenchie in career wins this week with the win over the Vikings. So kind of a cool little storyline going on in that one. So, all right, moving right along here to number 6. St. Vincent is moving up a spot. Just absolutely trounced Fortuna on Saturday, 62 to 28. And honestly, most of those 28 points that Fortuna scored were kind of some garbage time points too. 62 points. I think it was probably like the most points they've scored in a game, I think, in a couple of years. I'd have to go back and check, but it was not close from the get-go. St. Vincent led 28-0 in the first 7 minutes. I think they had touchdown plays on 4 of their first 9 plays. It was just like snap of the fingers. It was over. Bye week certainly did wonders for the Mustangs. They got a couple of their transfers eligible after their sit-out periods, got a couple guys back healthy. And they're healed up and looking like they're ready for a deep run here, here in the postseason. And then again, I think they are, like I said, they'll probably be one of the favorites there to compete with Yukay, I think, for the RAC Bay, Bay Division title. So, St. Vincent again, after a couple weeks of just beating up on some worse or on some lesser teams, I think, this is probably one of their bigger tests, I'd say, of the non-league play. And again, Fortuna was a little beat up too. But they still have a Cal commit and Jake Hallsworth, a big, strong tight end. He had 4 touchdowns. Fortuna definitely, gave them some trouble last year. And it was not even close this year. So I think St. Vincent, looking legit, facing off against, one of their first big tests, I'd say, of non-league play.
Yeah, totally. And Gus, I know you're there surviving the 100-degree heat or whatever it was on that St. Vincent turf. It was definitely hot, but yeah, statement win for the Mustangs. Perfectly sets them up for their Bay League, REC Bay League opener against Santa Rosa, traveling to Santa Rosa on Friday. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect momentum shifter for them, or momentum continuer. I'm not sure how to phrase that correctly, but regardless, they're carrying the momentum as much as they can into league play, and I honestly don't see them stopping for a little bit, or at least until that Ukiah matchup up there in Mendocino County. So again, like Gus said, mark your calendars for that. Right now there are 6 and 7 teams, but who knows where they'll be when that matchup comes around.
I will say too, last thing is I'm not counting out Montgomery too, because Montgomery has beaten St. Vincent 2 of the last 3 times they faced. So that matchup always kind of provides some interesting results. So I do think St. Vincent will take care of business this week. But again, I thought that the last couple of years too, and some of those results were a little surprising. So we'll see how that one goes. But I do think it'll be St. Vincent Yukay when it's all said and done. Moving on to number 5, Rancho Cotati. They were off last week. But yeah, they're opening up RAC Adobe Play this week. And we'll kind of see how things go here for the Cougars after going 4-1 in non-league play. Getting things started off with a vintage team that's won 4 in a row, and they're averaging about 40 points per game over that span. So I do think Rancho comes away with the win. But yeah, I mean, there are not going to be any easy games in the Adobe. So I forget who they have coming up next, but I mean, again, you're going to have to face Windsor, San Marin Catholic, Cardinal Newman here over the next couple of weeks. So good for Rancho to kind of get to 4-1 at this point of the year. I do think that they move to 5-1 after this week, but after that, wins might be kind of tough to come by. So we'll see how things go. But Rancho staying at number 5 after their bye last week.
Yeah, Rancho goes vintage this week. Then they go Cardinal Newman, Marin Catholic, Windsor, San Marin, all in a row. Which is probably not the best run of games to end your season with in terms of a power standpoint. But, Rancho it's one of those Rancho's an interesting team this year. They're Giovanni Martinez is obviously the big difference maker for them. He was banged up in their one non-league loss against Casa Grande, excuse me. But when they're on, I mean, their defense is pretty stout. When they're on offensively, that they are on, and this is perfect bye week to kind of heal some guys up as they go into league play. I think it's a perfect placement for a bye week. I know some of the other teams have done it as well. I used last week as a bye, so yeah, this is where it all counts now though for Rancho. If they really want to make a statement in the Adobe League there, they gotta get past Vintage first.
Yeah, I think they're. I think a lot of teams might be overlooking them a little bit, and that's always kind of scary. Rancho, I think, kind of takes that and uses that to fuel them a bit. So I think they're kind of feeding, like playing into that underdog role a little bit. No one believes in us kind of thing. So I do think that they, again, they have the potential to upset some teams here too going forward. So yeah, we'll see. But like I said, no easy games there in the Adobe division this year. Moving on to number 4, American Canyon. Kienan, you saw the Wolves in action last week. Winners 38-25 over Tam. Bit of a close game there. I mean, kind of their first real big test since Foothill, kind of early on in the year. But yeah, I mean, closer. I think it was a 1-score game heading into the fourth, and then Tam kind of ran away with it there in the last quarter. But yeah, I mean, again, this is kind of their first real test in weeks, and I feel like they answered it and looked pretty good doing it. So I don't think they've quite done enough just with this win and overall, I'd say, to jump Casa at our 3 spot in our rankings. But I do think that they're clearly the Gauchos' top contender in the Valley Division at this point.
I agree so too, and obviously we'll get to Casa's game in a minute, but yeah, I think it was 38-19 with like 2 seconds left, and Tamalpais got an ultimate garbage time score right at the horn to make it 38-25. Couple things, couple lapses for American Canyon. They could have put it away a lot earlier, but regardless, I mean, their offense did what they needed to do. Their defense came up huge when needed. I think their defense is much improved from last year. It's always exciting to go out to American Canyon and kind of see that atmosphere and things like that. But I totally agree with you there. I think it's going to be the Gauchos and Wolves for that RAC Valley title. That game, I believe, is on November 1st at American Canyon. So that's going to be a big one. We'll definitely be out there covering that. But American Canyon, man, 5-0 for the first time since like 2019, first time in 5 years. So looks like the Wolves are back to business a little bit, Gus.
Well, let's keep on rolling here. Moving on to number 3, like we mentioned, Casa Grande staying put 4-2, heading into their bye week this week. Took care of Redwood 34-0 on a hot Saturday afternoon last week. They get back to action in 2 weeks' time, I guess, against Justin Siena. Keep things rolling in the RAC Valley Division, but. I mean, they've been cruising the last few weeks, kind of same thing since that 1 or 2 point loss to San Marin there on that last second field goal. They've been rolling, trounced Napa, took care of Redwood. I thought Redwood probably would have been one of those like middle tier, like maybe a sneaky contender, in the RAC Valley, and nope. Casa Grande took care of business. So I did think that this is going to be for sure be a 2-team race between Casa and American Canyon. Again, Casa still has to get past Tam. I think that's going to be one of their other relatively bigger challenges. And Tam kind of has had their number the last couple of years too. So, we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, I mean, again, just taking care of business for Casa, sticking there at number 3. And I think coming off their bye, I don't think they should have any trouble kind of handling Justin too in a couple of weeks' time. So, big game against Tam, I think the week after that, and then an even bigger game against American Canyon coming up. I think that's on the 20, or no, that's on, I think, November 1st or something like that. So, Casa's gonna rest up this week, but some big ones coming up there for the Gauchos.
Yeah, totally. One thing about the Redwood game, because I was following it on Saturday, which also another game that got moved up earlier because of the heat, but uncharacteristic slow start from Casa. It was only like 13-0 at halftime before Casa rattled off 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. If Casa can shore up those slow starts a little bit and start fast like we know they can, like against Rancho, then I think they'll be just fine. But Redwood, beating Redwood, I think it's a big league win. And if they beat Tam, I think that's another big league win. So we'll see where things shape out. But Casa Grande staying in the 3rd spot there.
Moving on to our top two, and again, no surprise here in our top two. Number two is going to be Windsor. Number one is going to be Cardinal Newman. Again, heading into that massive game this Friday. But we'll talk about Windsor first. Heading into their 35-8 or 35-8 winners over Eureka last week to close out their non-league play at 5-0. Couple big stats here, Keenan. But scoring differential this year of 206-36. They've had a running clock, I believe, in 4 of their 8 games so far this season. I think that's right. So, but I also think that kind of more so speaks to their strength of schedule, kind of, some of the teams that they're playing. Eureka, Hayward, Annalee, I forget the other, Dublin, just a bunch of teams that might not be as good as maybe, they kind of thought when they were putting out the schedule this year. So again, they're taking care of business, 206-36, 100 and whatever, 70, plus scoring differential is definitely a good thing to come away with, when you're playing, lesser competition. But really, I think Windsor's only big test of non-league play was Camp Orlando, and this might actually be one of, I guess I don't want to say worse, but I guess worst is the only word I could use there. But one of the worst Campo teams that they've had in the last couple of years. And again, they're still a top 20 team in the NCS, but this is not like the NCS kind of contenders of old for Camp Lindo and stuff. So maybe overrated that one a little bit, but still they beat them by I think a couple scores in that one too. So either way, they took care of a lesser team like they should. So all this to be said, all of this to say is we're going to find out really quickly here kind of what Windsor's made and where they stack up, amongst the top teams here in the area. Obviously Newman this week, and then San Marin coming up, the week after. So some heavy hitters on the schedule, like on the schedule coming up. So I think Windsor's looked really good. I saw him in action against Campo. I thought, again, Hayden Anderson is the best player in the area, if not the North Bay. I think with that guy, on your side, you're going to be competitive in a lot of games. So we'll see if that trend kind of keeps up this week. I know Newman is just a massive caliber above, I think, a lot of the other teams that they played this year. So we'll see. But I think Windsor's at this point is a pretty clear number 2 team in the area. And I think they'll stick there unless, I don't know, they lose a bunch of games in league play, but I don't see that happening. So yeah, Windsor sticking here at number 2 heading into the big rivalry game this week against Newman.
Yeah, I think you said, heavy hitters on the schedule. I think you could say that about every team in the Adobe. It's just a bunch of heavy hitters. Yeah, man, Windsor is Windsor's churning. Like Windsor is just firing on all cylinders right now. And I think, you mentioned Hayden Anderson, but I want to give a shout out to sophomore quarterback there, Carter Vos III. He has been just absolute lights out, super efficient, doing his job, doing what he needs to do. And he's really been, leading that team from the quarterback position, taking over from obviously Judson Anderson last year. So, big shout out to Carter Vos III because, without his play, Windsor wouldn't be where they're at right now.
100%. Yeah. And again, it'll be interesting to kind of see how he and Newman and Windsor hold up against that Newman pass rush. Cause they have not seen some big boys like that yet this year, but I don't know. I've liked what I've seen from Carter this year. Again, sophomore, he's playing really well. 2 more years of varsity ball too. So I think he'll be really good. He already is really good, but I think, he'll get even better here as we go on. So anyway, excited for Friday night, which brings us up to our number 1 team, Cardinal Newman. Been up there all year. We'll be staying there probably for the foreseeable future again, unless, Windsor can come out on top on Friday. Couple more numbers for you. Newman was on bye last week, so definitely, I'd say a well-timed bye. They're 5-0, beat up on a bunch of teams in, non-league, and now they kind of got to rest some guys up. Really hot week last week too. They were practicing in the morning and stuff. So a very good week, I'd say, to kind of take off and just rest up some guys and stuff. So, to get ready for the stretch run here with league play. But scoring differential so far this year, 238-55. And they're playing some good teams too. Currently number 4 in the NCS and the Max Preps Cal Preps rankings. All done by a computer system. And Cal Preps scoring projections has Newman as a 24-point favorite over Windsor on Friday. I don't think it's going to be like that much of a blowout. I really don't. I think this will be a much more competitive game, but I'd have to go back and double check all the CalPreps, projections and stuff to see how accurate they actually are. But 24 points seems like a lot. We'll see how it goes. But, again, I know Newman is going to come in hungry, especially after losing to Windsor the last 2 years. And yeah, losing out on 2 league titles too over that span as well. So they're going to come in hungry, motivated. They are my pick to win the Adobe division at this point. I think that they're a better team than Windsor. I think they're a better team than San Marin. I think they're a better team than Marin Catholic. At this point, I think that Marin Catholic San Marin game will be very interesting on Thursday night. I'm going to go try to check it out. Just kind of, see what those teams are made of. But Newman, just cruising along here, staying at number 1 here heading into to Adobe play.
Yeah, real quick, you mentioned the point spread on Newman and Windsor. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot closer considering what has happened the past couple of years between the 2 schools. Especially a couple of years back, Gus, you were at that insane game, last minute penalties, stuff, all that stuff. And then last year, I think it was only like 13 points or something a Windsor win. So, yeah, regardless, I mean, it doesn't matter what form these teams are in. It doesn't matter. It's almost kind of like, Casa Grande, Petaluma, one of those games where it doesn't matter what form these teams are in. I mean, it's just going to be an absolute battle throughout. So I think it's going to be a lot closer than what CalPreps predicts. No offense there to CalPreps, but it's going to be a great one. Gus, I know you're going to be out there. So enjoy it. But yeah, Cardinal Newman, staying at 1, no doubt.
Yep, and that wraps up our rankings here heading into week 7, coming off of week 6. Is it? We only have 4 or 5 more weeks. 5 more weeks, I think it is.
I know it's going by so quick, dude.
Always does. So, but yeah, I mean, October's here. Actually, I think it is November 8th. November 8th and 9th, I think, is the final. I think it's the final week of the regular season. So we have exactly 1 month now. Here until the playoffs get going. So it's really excited for that. But again, we have a lot more football to get to, and I think October is going to provide some really, really special and some fun games coming up here. So stay tuned. Thanks again for watching, everyone. And be sure to check out all of our coverage from games this week.
Yep. See you guys.